While others fretted about wolves raiding their camps, this guy had already strung one up. Honestly, it looked pretty gross. He even built a meat storage platform that you can't climb without a ladder. The fat in the jars alone could last him several days. A few fortunate contestants landed large fish, yielding as much meat as a wolf. The fishing net worked wonders. It's a good lesson, but some had their food swiped by foxes. That's just bad luck. The unluckiest has to be this woman. She managed to shoot a squirrel with a bow and arrow, but still got bitten. I wonder if that bite will get infected and if she'll need to be evacuated. It's day 36 of the challenge. 6 contestants remain. Vona is reinforcing his shelter overnight. He doesn't want the cold to affect his rest. A double-layered wall seems much cozier. The only problem is the door, which isn't very practical since he didn't account for diagonal beams during the reinforcement. Overall, it's already quite impressive. After a night of hard work and rest, Vona checked his traps at dawn. He hoped to snag a rabbit for a meal, but there were no tracks, and the traps were buried in snow. He needed to reset the traps. He used to catch rabbits there, so they shouldn't have vanished so fast. He needed to eat more rabbits to sustain himself, otherwise he wouldn't last a week. His body felt extremely fatigued. Even a short walk like this consumed a lot of energy. The area around the traps was unusually chaotic. It looked like some animal had messed with them. Even the ropes were chewed through. Vona suspected it was foxes. Rabbits don't cause that much damage. He feared the foxes had driven them off, making food even scarcer. He tracked the foxes to see what was happening. He preferred empty traps over letting foxes steal his catch. It's more frustrating than going hungry himself. The more rabbits he caught, the more foxes would come to scavenge. So, what should he do about his traps? The camera then shifted to Jordan. Eating meat every day can lead to dental issues. Even in the wild, you need to take care of your oral hygiene. A small stick like this is a good choice. Just bite on it. It not only protects your teeth, but also keeps your breath fresh all day. Jordan highly recommends everyone try it. It's 100% handmade and all natural. If you need it, just bring an axe and chop some. After Jordan finishes promoting the survival must-haves, it's time to check on the meat storage. There are a lot of fresh tracks nearby, which is not a good sign. Animals must have tried to steal food last night, coming within 50 meters of the shelter. They're really bold. Aren't they scared he'll hunt them with his bow? The wolves are the biggest threat, persistently seeking food. And they will keep returning. The meat doesn't seem safe up there. Jordan considers setting up an alarm system, so any approaching animals will wake him up. Maybe he can get more meat that way. Jordan suddenly has a bold idea. He decides to stay up tonight and wait for the wolves. I wonder, isn't he scared of being attacked? Let's see how Michelle is doing. He's beginning to long for home again. Since arriving for the challenge, he's struggled with bad breath daily. No electric toothbrush, no toothpaste. He feels like he's brushing for nothing. The taste of charcoal isn't very pleasant, but at least it cleans his teeth. After brushing, he goes to check the traps, hoping to get some meat today. I wonder if anyone heard his stomach growling. He's worried he might forget to look for food. The good news is he spotted fresh rabbit tracks on the way, and they look big. Michelle hurries to check them out. It would be great to catch it, but it's not that easy. Some animal escaped from the snare. Does this mean another day of hunger? He can only reset the traps and try his luck at the next spot. Although there are fresh signs here, Michelle isn't happy at all because they are fox tracks. The rabbit was probably taken by the fox. There aren't enough rabbits here to begin with, and now there's a fox too. Things are getting worse. The whole way, there are fox tracks. Michelle feels that even if the trap catches a rabbit, the fox will probably eat it. And indeed, the rabbit was eaten by the fox. The snare was torn apart. Even though he expected this, seeing it still makes him furious. If it weren't for the local ban on hunting foxes, Michelle would set up a bunch of traps to get rid of them. Continuing like this isn't a solution. He needs to ensure the traps can catch food and prevent the foxes from stealing it. Surviving here is incredibly tough. Michelle is still furious about losing her food. If I see that fox now, I could crush it with my bare hands. The camera then moves to Jordan. Tonight, he skipped crawling into his sleeping bag early. Instead, he plans to stay up all night guarding his food. The wolf is still lurking, but one thing is certain. The wolf was sure to come for the food, and he was prepared to chase it away at any moment. He wasn't letting anything take his food. This is about surviving to the end and winning. Suddenly, I hear a wolf outside, and Jordan snaps to attention. I was certain the wolves were by the food. I didn't think I'd encounter them right away. Fortunately, the wolf didn't attack, allowing me to return to the shelter to rest. I should have brought the axe earlier. Now, I have no clue where the wolf went, but at least tonight I can rest easy. I need this time to recover. I'll deal with the wolf tomorrow. It's day 37. When Jordan wakes, he checks his food. In theory, the wolf shouldn't reach the food, but the fat is gone. Jordan is livid, muttering curses. He'd rather eat up all the lean meat than lose the fat. You have to understand, the energy burn doesn't come from protein. In wilderness survival, fat is crucial for energy. Jordan felt really low at that moment. He couldn't understand how the wolverine climbed up and stole the carcass. Tonight, he had to catch it. Reflecting on the lost tasty fat, he pondered how many wolverines it would take to compensate. Jordan sat deep in thought. How can I protect my food and get rid of those wolves? The most important thing now is to pull myself together. He refuses to let this make him quit. After recovering the area with branches, Jordan gets to work. He plans to set up some traps around, no matter where the wolf comes from, if it dares to go near the food again. He's confident he can catch it. Of course, the traps need to be rigged with cans, so when the wolf passes by, I can hear the noise and come out to handle it. Jordan is sure this will work and starts gathering materials. Wolverines are incredibly fierce, even bold enough to challenge a wolf pack. If he could trap and secure one, a small wolf cub is manageable. The area isn't ideal for warning lines, so I'll do my best. I hope the wolf cub comes close enough to trigger it. Jordan is ready to take it down. Do you think he can hunt it? Let's anticipate tonight's events. Suddenly, it's late, and Jordan is watching the situation outside. The wolf cub is bound to show up. It's been ages since I felt this bored, but if I can handle that cub, all this effort will be worth it. Jordan keeps encouraging himself, preferring to rest more during the day, rather than miss the wolf cub's nighttime activity. I wonder how the other contestants are doing. Apart from the wolf cub stealing my fat, I've actually been doing quite well. If I can keep this up, Jordan thinks he has a good chance of winning the prize. That way, I can achieve financial freedom and spend more time with my kids. I wonder how my family is doing. I miss my family and want to return. Being alone here is so isolating, the teacher reflects to the camera. Being here too long will mess with your mind. Suddenly, there's a noise outside. Jordan quickly focuses on observing. He suspects the wolf cub touched the can and quickly heads outside to check. No one knows what's happening with the cub. He cautiously walks over, too tense to bring the camera. He sees the wolf cub right there. He grabs his axe and rushes over. Looks like Jordan took care of the wolf cub. Now he's overjoyed, bringing the wolf cub in front of the camera. No one else has hunted one of these, right? Jordan is really ruthless, he even gutted the wolf cub. I'm curious about how the meat tastes. For him, it's not much meat, but he won't have to worry about food security anymore. He's in a great mood. If any more wolf cubs dare to come here and cause trouble, his axe is plenty sharp. On day 38, Vona notices it's much colder outside. He'd rather stay by the fire than go exploring. He just wants to stay warm by the fire, but his growling stomach is hard to ignore. He can only wait for his hair to dry before going out to look for food. It's much more comfortable here after the smoke. After all, there are still foxes lurking around. In this state of hunger, Vona worries his body won't hold up. I have to stay focused all the time to ensure nothing goes wrong. Wilderness survival really is a lot of work. The pressure increases day by day. I adjusted the traps again. As soon as a rabbit enters the snare, it will be caught right away, making it harder for the foxes to steal the food. Vona believes this will be effective. Since he first arrived, his body has weakened, making even simple traps exhausting to set up. Despite the foxes' cleverness, they can't get in here to eat the rabbits. Vona originally thought his survival skills were pretty good, but after coming here, he realized he still has a lot to learn. He used to believe most online contestants just starved without real skills, but being here made him realize that simply enduring hunger is impressive. He thinks about finding food daily, but the results are poor. Each day, he burns a lot of energy and feels intense mental strain, always thinking about going home to rest. He hopes the new traps will work to keep him going. She aims to be the first female wilderness survival champion. Do you think Vona's traps will catch any food? I doubt it. Once back at the shelter, he quickly made some hot water to drink and crawled into his sleeping bag to rest, conserving energy. Conserving energy for daily tasks, Vona feels miserable, constantly on the brink of starvation. Or nearly starving. He thinks about his family and misses the delicious meals at home. When he gets out, he plans to have a huge feast and use the prize money to travel and enjoy life. He quickly falls asleep, dreaming of roast chicken waving at him. He wonders how many contestants are left. He believes there can't be many contestants remaining since the harsh environment isn't for everyone. Meanwhile, Michelle next door is also hungry, thinking about how to set traps that won't be destroyed by foxes. If she accidentally kills a fox, she not only has to pay a fine, but also has to go through some education. Just thinking about it makes her feel terrible. Clearly, she's the victim here. She's getting weaker and feels lightheaded just standing up. She's lost a lot of weight since she arrived. Worried about elimination, Michelle was surprised to find a fox, not a rabbit, at the trap. It was clear the fox had come to hunt the rabbit, and there was nothing she could do about it at the time. All she could do was voice her frustration. The camera then shifts to Jordan. Justice may be delayed, but it will never be absent. He had already dealt with the wolves. Any wolf that tried to steal food would face the same fate. If more bold wolves appeared, he wouldn't hesitate to hang a few more. The priority now was to find a new spot for storing food. He decided on a high platform to keep it out of reach of wolves. He began with a standing platform and built upwards to keep animals from climbing. The crucial part was thoroughly cleaning the tree bark so the wolves couldn't grip it with their claws. The build turned out to be more physically demanding than anticipated. Only someone as robust as Jordan would be willing to do this. I wonder why they aren't worried about birds stealing the food. Are there no birds here that eat meat? Jordan had learned how to live comfortably in winter from the local indigenous people. He learned this building technique from them, and it could theoretically last 4 to 5 years without problems, barring a blizzard. If animals attacked, he could climb up and defend with a bow and arrow. The platform resembled this. Now, he just had to build a ladder to climb up. Jordan found the challenge fascinating, as he was trying many things for the first time. The experience was unique, and the stunning scenery made him wish he could invite friends and family. Before coming, his wife was worried about how he would manage, but it turned out he was living quite comfortably, whether it was building the shelter or storing food. Jordan had done an excellent job. Now, with the ladder, the food was stored even more securely. Unless something unexpected happens, Jordan seems poised to win the prize, while others still struggled with food. He was already enjoying the luxury of roasted meat. Could anyone be more comfortable than Jordan? On the 40th night, Barry also had a fox trying to steal from him. He stayed up all night and finally went out to check at dawn. The pot had a layer of ice, and drinking that water was incredibly refreshing, giving him a much-needed energy boost. Before arriving, I was concerned about grizzly bears, but it turns out foxes are more common. Surprisingly, foxes are sometimes tougher to handle than bears. The traps catch them, but they're not edible, and chasing them away doesn't work. They keep coming back, which is really annoying. Now, I can only rely on fishing for food. Using an old can as bait had been effective before. He believes that with proper use, it will keep him well fed with fish. He wasn't worried about running out of food. He cast the hook, though he was initially unsure if any fish were nearby. Unexpectedly, a fish bit the hook so quickly, and it was bigger than he imagined. Barry had to keep pulling to tire it out. Now the fish is struggling below. Using a stick, he tried to control it. The worst thing happened. The fish slipped away just as Barry was about to grab it. He wished he could dive in after it, feeling utterly foolish. That fish could have fed him for a week. At least the bait was still there, so he had another shot at catching more. But he felt really upset inside. On the 41st day of the challenge, Nikki was preparing to cook rabbit meat. Although there wasn't much meat on it, just smelling it was already a treat. This challenge hasn't been very smooth for her. She had several mental breakdowns, but Nikki persevered. She found joy in the struggle, boiling the bones countless times. She managed to get some meat, which she found incredibly delicious and highly recommended to others. It tasted like noodles, but there wasn't much of it. After finishing, she went out to find more food. Food is scarce in winter, and Nikki feels weak from the energy spent rebuilding the shelter. Otherwise, she could have had a slightly better time. Now, she's hoping to catch another rabbit. Unfortunately, there were no tracks nearby. Maybe they migrated elsewhere, but she did find some squirrel tracks. She quickly followed the tracks, hoping to catch it. Despite its small size, any meat was valuable. The squirrel sat on the tree, oblivious. Unaware of Nikki watching from below, the squirrel was easily shot down with her bow and arrow. But as expected, the unexpected happened. The squirrel, in a final act of defiance, bit Nikki. She might be the unluckiest in the challenge, facing injuries and even a shelter fire. It's amazing she's lasted this long. We still don't know if she'll get sick. For now, she can only clean the wound and wait. Not sure if there are enough bandages left. Nikki was in a really bad mood then, worried about getting rabies. Does anyone know the early symptoms? We can only hope for the best now. Nikki always seems to get hurt, and the bleeding won't stop. Hopefully, the bandages will stop the bleeding. Meanwhile, Barry crafted a fishing net to keep the fish from escaping back into the water. She's confident the fish won't escape now and proudly displayed the net on camera. Now, it's time to test it at the shore. She's already lost several big fish. If she'd made this net sooner, she could have stockpiled meat. She cast the hook and waited for a bite. This time it took a bit longer, but the bait worked well. First, she tugged to tire the fish out. As it neared the shore, she easily scooped it up. This catch was effortless and would provide food for several days. Will Barry be able to keep catching fish? Let's wait and see.